Kum Len Black Gemara. Today's block is Wednesday. Chav Ches Amid Aleph. We'll finish the pedic. The following people are going to testify once they're adults about events that happened when they were minors. As a minor, they wouldn't have been believed, but as an adult, they will be believed because these are all Yisurim Rabbanan. A person believes to say, I recognize the signature, it's my father's signature. I haven't seen it after my bar mitzvah. This is the my teacher was this is my brother's handwriting. Then that's one example. Another thing is Zochris. I remember the plane is that woman. She got to Beinum. I remember she wore a veil when she went to the wedding. In other words, she was a psula. The Reisha Peru. I remember that she had her hair uncovered, either totally uncovered, or as Rashi said that some of the hair locks go all the way down to the shoulder. She did have her hair covered, but they took some of the hair out because she was only engaged. And the other thing I remember is each playing the Gates of Beis HaSefer. I remember this kid left yeshiva, likva to go to the mikveh, lecha in order to eat truma. In other words, he's a kohen. And he actually went to the warehouse, to the granary to receive the truma. And another thing he's believed too, Gemara explain each one why he's believed, even though at the time he was a minor. The following place, Beis HaPras. The following place is a place that used to have a caver, but it got all chewed up and everything else and got spread out in an area that's 100 amos wide. It's only Asum Rabbanan because there might be bones the size of a lentil that you might move when you're walking about and might touch it. We're not worried about oil hovering over it because in order to hover over it has to be kazayis, not the size of a lentil. And it's only Asum Rabbanan, and therefore we trust him that this place is a Beis HaPras. There's no full caver here anymore, which would be a bigger problem. It's only Beis HaPras. They plowed the field, and therefore it's only Asum Rabbanan. And there are ways of how to walk through such a field. This is Tchum Shabbos over here. I remember we used to walk till here. I remember that people used to walk through this person's field because you're taking away property, that's money, and to take away money, you need much more, you need proper aiders. Or I remember this person's backyard, we used to have a platform here, everybody did the hesped. In other words, it's public property, public access here. Again, you're taking away somebody's money. Says the Gemara, let's understand this. He says, when do we say that we believe these things, that there's somebody else with him? So there's two aided, he and somebody else. With tzricha, why do we need three cases about signatures? Why do we need three cases of signature? Father, teacher, and brother. We need all three. If you talk about a father, he's always there. He sees it. We trust him. Rabbi, you teacher, how often do you see your teacher's signature? Maybe not. If the teacher is because he's scared of his teacher, and therefore he must be saying the truth. But his father doesn't really fear him at all. Maybe not so, doesn't take it so seriously. How can we really trust him? These two, because he's always there. He's scared of him. His brother, the less slave, he's not scared of him, and he doesn't frequent him so much. Maybe we cannot trust him. And we trust him. Why taka do we trust him? Because the whole idea of kiyum shtadus is only midrabanan. The whole idea of kiyum shtadus is only the rabbanan, that you have to verify shtar. And new Rabbanan with Rabbanan. So Rabbanan said, you know what, we're going to trust this guy now. He's an adult, telling us what he saw when he's young. Tesa has a problem. That means you're telling me Mahatayra every star is kosher, 100% kosher. So anybody can come along, make up a fraudulent star, so get fraudulent signatures on it, and you say, oh, Mahatayra, you owe me $100. So the re-answers that when do we say that kiyum shtar is Rabbanan? Only if the loiva admits that this star is real. And the only thing is, the loiva says, I paid it back. So then we say, okay, if we can then, since the Levi admitted the star is real, then kiyum shtaris is only midrabbanan. But the Levi denies the star is real, then we got a problem. Even Mahatayda, you have to prove it. But Tesa concludes, he brings a right from somewhere else that it sounds like Mahatayda, the Adim signed on the star as if they are present in front of you, and therefore every star should be trusted. And he remains with a question: how do we prevent people from cheating others according to the Torah? And he remains with the question. Says for the Gemara. I remember this woman here walked with a veil. My time, but why? Why do we believe him? We had him getting this payrik. Most women who get married, absolute. And therefore, Gili Milsa he's not giving us testimony, it's something we can find out anyway. I say, this kid went out of school, therefore he's a coin. So how do you know he's a coin? Maybe he was a slave. The slave of a coin can also eat truma. What does that prove? He went to mikveh to eat truma because he's a slave. Says the Gemara, this supports Rabbi Shimon Levi. You're not allowed to teach your servant Torah. You're not allowed to do certain things that a servant is actually exempt from. If we do that, it's as if you set him free. And therefore, if this person he said, I remember he left yeshiva. Must be that he was his own son. Said he, you now teach an Evet Torah. But Tanya, we learned, love rabbi, if the master behaves with his slave as if he's free. He borrowed money from a slave. His slave had money from before he became a slave. Also, Rabbi Apotrufus, or his master trusted him and he made him the overseer, executive of his estate. He allowed his servant to put on tefillin on his own. Or he went to yeshiva and he learned few psukim. That's not enough evidence that he should go free. An executive estate because he's good in business. And these cases he put on tefillin or teaching, it doesn't prove anything. So how can you say that the fact that he was in yeshiva proves he was not a slave? Says there was a big difference. Hasam the Ikra Evan medai toy. There the Evan on his own initiative went ahead and decided to put on tefillin or to read psukim. That doesn't prove he's free. And that the testimony this guy gave was the konoi be minabanim. The father brought him to yeshiva to learn. So it must be it's his son, not his Evan. Litbati go to mikvah truma betruma drabanan. This edus only works for truma drabanan, not for truma the ter. They need proper edus. Which I chayv the kimonu ala and he came to the granary again. But dim evakainu that doesn't prove he's a kohen. Maybe he's a servant of a kohen. He's allowed to eat truma. Tanan kamanom it must be. This follows the opinion that ein chok truma leeved elikin rabba imay. We will not distribute truma to an eved unless his master's with him. Because one of the reasons is we have Moribamas, because after he becomes free, he'll continue going to the granary because we remember seeing him coming. This way, we don't want the Eved ever to be there without his master as well. Time we learned. What happened was there was a Kohenis and a Shifcha both in the cave hiding, and they both had a child, and we don't know whose child is whose. So but for now on, if they ever want to eat, they both are allowed to eat Truma, but if they ever go to granary, they both have to go together. And Gemara says like this: "Time we learn ain't chalkin truma le'eved elakim Rabbi, but they both have to go together." David Rabbi Huda, Rabbi Yezi says Yochul Shemer. He can go to the granary and say, "Look, im kohen, and if I'm a kohen, give me my own right. Truly b'shalatzmi, give me because I'm a kohen. But if I'm a kohen, if I'm only a servant of a kohen, truly b'shalatzmi, give me because of my master." So Rabbi Yezi allowed the eved to get truma on his own, and Rabbi Huda did not allow. But they're not arguing. Why not? But the Mekayim should Rabbi Yehuda in Rabbi Yehuda's place, in Rabbi Yehuda's place, if somebody ate truma, was enough proof that he's a full-fledged kohen. Therefore, he would not allow an eved to receive kohen from the warehouse. But Mekayim should Rabbi Yeshu's place, that was enough evidence. So then, who cares if he goes to the granary and gets truma? Nobody's going to say he's a kohen. Tanya, we learned. Rabbi Yesi says Rabbi Yesi. Interesting thing. Rabbi Yesi's son. The Yomai Lohe Avati. I generally did not give any testimony, but Pamachas once I gave witness the hell ever could be. And what happened was by mistake they appointed someone to be a kohen, even though he wasn't, based on what I said. Hell was hakadatach. What are you talking about? How can it be he made such a mistake? Animals didn't want to eat from somebody else's field, was given mice and so on. Tzadikim atzmam like koshkein. Tzadikim definitely don't make a mistake. And here we're not talking about eating. Taisha somewhere else says only when it says Isa Chepsa about eating. Here you see clearly we're not talking about eating here at all. We're talking about saying Adis false, saying the wrong Adis. And yet we say that a tzaddik doesn't make mistakes. It's interesting why Taisha says only when it comes to eating. Anyway, Ella Bikshu Lahalis Ebed Lekuna. What happened like this? This is what happened. What happened was that he went to give testimony that he saw this guy receiving a truma at a granary, but the mistake was he saw it in his father Rabbi Yeshu's place. He saw Rabbi Yeshu's place that gave truma where there was allowed, and then but then he went to Rabbi Yehuda's place, where his city, and he testified this guy's a kohen, but he shouldn't have, because in Rabbi Yehuda's city they assume right away there's a full-fledged kohen. He was about to say, thankfully the guy turned out to be he was a kohen. He was lucky, but he almost made a mistake. My time base of pras. The Rabbanon. Why is he believed by base of pras? Because it's only the Rabbanon. Reason the name of Shmuel. And what's the advantage of base of pras? There's a cave that was broken up. Because they had the plowshares going through there, we say that it broke everything down to tiny little bits. And maybe there's a bone the size of a lentil. So if you blow your way in front of you and you sweep away in front of you, you can walk because you've removed away everything else. And even though you might be an oil over something buried, there's no oil on a little bone or something, because it has to be the size of a kazayis, or it has to be a spine or the skull or the majority of the skeleton. Sorry, much more, unless kazayis of flesh. Says the Gemara. He says that if a lot of people walk through a base of pras, even if you don't blow, it's tired, but because definitely they pushed everything away. My time, but why? Definitely, there was a bone the size of a lentil, definitely pushed it away. That Tchumen is only the Rabbanan, therefore he's believed to say to where they walked on Shabbos. He's not believed to say that there was a pathway through this guy's field, or that there was a podium there to give a stadium, and therefore part of your field is public access. My time, take away money, that's not good enough when he was a minor, even though now he's an adult. What we learned. Child believed to say, my father told me, this family, the genes are pure, this one is, what do you mean a family is Torah or family is Tameh? What does that even mean? Ella, what he meant to say was, Mishpacha Zuksheda, this Mishpacha is kosher, there's no mamzeim, everything is perfect. And Mishpacha Zupsula, this Mishpacha is puzzle. And then the next thing he's allowed to say, Ushachalnu b'ktzatza, I ate the ktzatza. The most saying that is. Shabbos playing with this girl, marry this person. Ushayinu malach and challah matanas when you're kohen. I remember we used to bring challah matanas to this person who was a kohen. Al yedei atzmai. I myself did it. I'm talking about myself. No, he's not saying as Adis, he's telling the story about himself. If he's been saying about somebody else, he's not going to help. If he says that my father is a sent for somebody else, then it's not good Adis. But if he says my father gave me to pass it on, it's all right. The kulam in all these cases, if this boy, who now is an adult, was a goy when he was a boy, and now is an adult, or ever he was a servant then, and now he's free, ain't the money when you're telling the stories about the time when you were a goy, or the time you were a slave, we don't trust you. They never let me. He's not believing. We'll still come back to. They never let me. Now that you're not believing to say that there's a pathway through this guy's field. And then money they are believed. In which case is he arguing when he says they are believed? Ilema safer on the safer that there was a path in your backyard. He's taking out somebody else's money without evidence, just because he was a kid then. Elarech in the beginning about a goy. The kulam im this guy. He was a goy when he was young, and now he became a convert. Or ever was a servant, or a slave when he was young, and now he's free. Ain't the money is not believed. And the money they are believed. So what's the argument? Tanakama saw when he was young, he was a guy. He was so particular in observing all of these things, especially when it comes to mitzvahs, true and all that. Therefore, we can't really trust him. And Rabbi Yechon Broker saw seems like from Rabbi Yechon Broker that if you already became a gay in the future, you must have wanted to become a gay even when you're young. Meidik have a daik. He would have been very careful even when he was young, because he already knew he was going to become a gay. Interesting idea. Mike Tzotza. What's Tzotza? Thought we learned. What in the world is this ktzatza? If he said, I ate a ktzatza. One of the members of the family, married a woman that he should not have married. That was really forbidden to him. And the rest of the family is very worried that their entire reputation will be tainted. The rest of the family comes along. They bring up symbolically a barrel full of fruits. They'll break in the middle of the street, and they make this declaration: our brethren Eden, listen, my brothers, this guy, our brother, married someone that's forbidden to him. We are scared. We are scared that maybe his kids will mix up with our family. We want you to take this to remember forevermore. When he's being accused or whatever it is, there's a mamzer in the family. Don't go ahead and cast aspersions on us. We should know right now we have nothing to do with it. The zuhi tzatza. And that is an example of a tzatza shahatinik neman l'hoyeleh is believed to say. So the rest of the families are Torah, and that family there is Tameh. Hadna locha isha shins amla. We just completed the second.